No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
By and large, more good than bad, but the bad on the scoreboard is what matters the most. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mindell, here to discuss tonight's defeat of the Winnipeg Jets. 4-1, the Toronto Maple Leafs take it to the team from Manitoba. The hometown crowd goes home happy while the Jets fans who were in attendance leave forlornly. Gentlemen, good to see you both on this Thursday evening to discuss tonight's 4-1 Leafs victory over the Jets.
Yeah, Beer League is obviously not having a great night. I don't think there's a lot of Jets fans that are having a great night. As you mentioned, Drew, the Jets fans in attendance in Toronto, and obviously there's a lot of them. Shout out to Harvey Manouk, who was at the game, and I'm sure you guys had some people in your camps that were potentially at the game in Toronto. Like, look, at the first period probably could not have gone any better for the Jets, right? Like, Ilya Samsonov
would have been better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they didn't have anything to show for it, but like they were all over the Leafs, Dave, right? And it was the opposite of what happened against the Habs, right? The Jets came out flat and really only turned it on in the third period. And in this particular game, it was the second period that was obviously the worst for them. And the Leafs, it was mentioned on the broadcast, the Leafs are in terms of goal differential, are the best second period team in the league, something like plus 25. I forget exactly what it was, but I mean, look at you like, how well Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor played, Josh Morrissey. I mean, there was a lot of good offense created by players, but, the turnovers and the way, the Jets continue to, shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, it's troubling, right? Like Mark Scheifele, wasn't good against the Habs. And, he was directly responsible by turning the puck over on 2 goals, not just 1, 2 goals, right? So, it was a rough night for 55, and it was just a rough night in general for the Jets. Like, Connor Hellebuyck, you're not going to fault him at all on any of these goals. It was just, the Jets, they got into a track meet, and obviously, the goal early in the second period by Austin Matthews is a killer, right, guys? Because you badly outshoot the Leafs, Dave, and you have nothing to show for it, and then you find yourselves down 1-0, and the Leafs have all the momentum, and then obviously they score shortly thereafter, right? So, an exciting game to watch, but also a really disappointing game in terms of the end result.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to me, this is a sign. I mean, look, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I know people don't want to hear this because, the blinders are on and the dislike for Toronto is real. And I get it. I totally understand it. I, more often than not agree with it. Look, the Maple Leafs are a damn good hockey team. And they're a damn good regular season hockey team. Playoffs, different animal. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But they're a damn good regular season hockey team, and you just can't. You're not going to get away often with making mistakes against them, Dave. And the Jets learned that valuable lesson in today's game because if you looked at if you just looked at the scoreboard or the score sheet, if you look at the box score, if you look at some of the possession numbers, things in this game without looking at the actual final score, you would have thought that the Jets did pretty well because the Jets controlled a lot of the flow of this game, except that when they made mistakes, and they made 3 glaring mistakes in this game, they ended up behind Connor Hellebuyck. Not to say that's Connor Hellebuck's fault, because it wasn't. From my perspective, he wasn't responsible for the Jets losing this game, but it just goes to show when you play a very good hockey team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, what can happen when you make those mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I think that, the Jets will happily take that first period and bottle it up and try and replicate it, obviously, with a goal or 2 added to the mix. But I mean, I think the high danger chances after the first period was still just 3-3. So even though they outshot them 16-6, Toronto did have some good quality chances, and Connor Hellebuyck was up to the task to make those saves.
Two 2-on-1s, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that Hellebuyck had to be sharp on.
Yeah. So I think it becomes a function of that, boys. And I think it's one of those situations where you've got to have You've got to convert, because if you don't, Toronto's too good a team. And Samsonov was excellent tonight. You have to credit him. I mean,
he was great.
He played an excellent hockey game. So, I mean, that's part of the reality as well, right? I mean, you can't always expect. We've seen it in other instances. Connor Hellebuck sometimes can get out Connor Hellebuck, and I think Samsonov did that for the Leafs today.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's a pretty simple summation, because you look at the number, like the Jets possession wise, the Jets controlled 60% of the possession 5-on-5,
right?
95% of the time, more often than not, you're going to take that. The Jets want that. That's a recipe for success, especially against a Toronto Maple Leafs team. The Leafs got timely goal scoring, and they got and they got timely saves. And sometimes that's all it takes to win, especially when, the Jets just, the Leafs' best players, in this case, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, just contributed just a little bit more than the Jets' best players. Mark Scheifele is not going to like this game, and you know how excited he gets and how geeked up he gets to play in Toronto. Close to his hometown. I'm sure he had many friends and family in the crowd tonight. Lots of Jets, lots of ties. All these guys, when they play in Toronto, get a little bit more jump in their step, and the Jets came out that way. So for a team that typically comes out flat, they came out strong. They came out and played a very good first period. But 8 seconds into the second, and then it was just all downhill from there. At that point in time, it was just absolute backbreaking for the Jets to start the second period in the way that they did.
And Drew,
Tom Zappia is right. Toronto played 9 minutes of the game, and they won the game.
Right, and the Jets have done that also this season. Absolutely. And like you said, Drew, I'm with you. Like, I mean, we can't tell the first round joke anymore, right? Like, the Leafs lose in the first round every single year. Ha ha ha. Like, everybody knows that, right? And maybe this year will be different. Maybe it won't. I mean, they're going to be a playoff team. I don't think, there's no doubt where they are right now. They've built themselves up a good cushion, similar to the Jets. Right. But you're right. I mean, in terms of possession, expected goals, it was all Jets in the first period. And maybe, what you like the most is how good that penalty kill looked when Pierre-Luc Dubois took that hooking penalty on Bobby McMahon. And the Leafs' first power play unit, I'm not sure if they were out there for the full 2 minutes, but they were out there for a good chunk. And they had a lot of zone time, but they only had one shot, I believe. Right? So the Jets' penalty kill, which it has been for most of the year, has been really solid. So not only were they dominating offensively, they were dominating defensively, special teams, and going into the first period, anybody watching that game would say that, the Jets looked like the better team and they had all the momentum. But as you mentioned, and as our good friend Dom Zappia mentioned, you get a goal early in the second, you get another goal, then all of a sudden, the home team is up 2-0. Yeah. The fans are into it, and you don't really deserve to be up 2-0. So yeah, like sometimes hockey is like that, right? Like sometimes the goaltender, if he's the best player on the ice, that is the difference. And Ilya Samsonov was the difference. As you mentioned, Austin Matthews buried his opportunities. Mitch Marner buried his opportunity, right? So, I mean, you throw all that together, it wasn't a good night, to be the Jets or to be a Jets fan. One good period or, 2 good periods. The third period was largely controlled by the Jets as well.
Yeah.
But 2 good periods, hockey's a 60-minute game. So, I mean, you're not going to take anything. There's no moral victory here. You've lost a couple games in a row. You weren't good at home against Arizona, Dave. And then you've got a back-to-back coming against Ottawa and Philly. And even though those 2 teams are outside of a playoff spot right now and most likely won't make the playoffs, they have something to play for right now. They're still trying to, hang on, to, stick in the playoff race, if you will, right? So this road trip isn't going to get any easier than you go into Nashville, a division rival. So you got to really win your next 3 games to make this a good road trip.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, that's what made the loss on Tuesday against Montreal so it compounds the error, because you knew this was always going to be a very difficult game, and this was going to be the hardest test on the road trip, against the Maple Leafs team that's above the Jets in the standings, and there aren't many teams above the Jets in the standings, Dave. But now all of a sudden you've lost 2 in a row. You like how you played, so I think that is probably. And Rick Bowness talks a lot about the process. When they get a positive result, but the process isn't great, he says so. And I think he'll say that you go back to that Buffalo game, for example, where the result was good but the process wasn't. I think that they'll generally be okay with the process in tonight's game, because for the most part they had the Leafs on their heels, or a lot of the game they had their Leafs on their heels, and you sort of want to you want to take advantage of that, and you want to continue that on Saturday against Ottawa. But at the same time, you don't want doubt to start to drift in and things like that. You don't want guys to get down and be concerned about the goal scoring, because they haven't scored a lot of goals as of late. Take away that Pittsburgh game.
Well, that's why the comment was right. You can't win many games 1-0.
Right. I mean, and that's just exactly it. You can't win by only scoring one goal. And I mean, what they get? They got one tonight. What did they get against Montreal? They got one against Montreal. What they get against Arizona?
Couple.
Two against Arizona. So the Pittsburgh game was the outlier as of late. Never mind the Detroit game. I mean, that was a crazy game altogether. But the offense hasn't necessarily been at the level that you want. And you saw some line juggling and you saw some line shuffling in tonight's game. And
I don't like the line I didn't like the line combinations when I saw, Jeff Hamilton, our good buddy, who we had on the Saturday show this past week, Murat. It was like, what has Sakumanilainen really done, to be on that third line? Like I've liked Cole Perfetti's game, right? Like he was dealing with an illness. Yeah. Like, I don't know, Dave, like, you can jump in here. I didn't like the makeup of the lines whatsoever tonight. The forward lines.
Yeah, no, I understood what you mean. I can understand that as because, you seem to have a lot of chemistry there before. And so it was kind of, maybe you were trying to reward Morgan Barron because he's been playing very well.
I thought he played well tonight.
Yeah, he did. And it's not just Morgan
I don't
Barron.
think
It's more Sakumanilainen.
I agree with you.
I just don't, I thought Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, as usual, had the speed going. He had the hustle going. He lacks in finish a little bit, right, Dave? But I don't know.
Because he's Swedish.
I get why you went to the line blender after the Montreal game. Like, I get it because you weren't creating a lot of offense. And it turns out, Dave, that Rick Bowness's lines actually, had a positive result, right? Like, they were really good tonight offensively. I just thought, that kind of threw everything off. I just thought that defensively, like the Jets, you saw it at times. They were sloppy.
I think what this game showed me, and it's something we'll obviously discuss more on Saturday morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. here, the need for the Jets to get another top six, middle six forward.
For sure.
Because they are playing guys who shouldn't really be in that role. I mean, Sakumanilainen has been a nice story, but he's not a guy
he's a fourth line guy.
He's a fourth line guy.
That's his ceiling. He's not. This isn't a guy who's going to give you a lot of offense. He's a penalty killer fourth line guy.
That's right. That's what he is. I mean, that's largely what Sam Gagner is now. That's what Axel Jonsson-Fjällby is. I mean,
you got a lot of that.
You got a lot of that. Now, Morgan Barron, I thought, acquitted himself nicely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Morgan Barron's game. I thought, okay, maybe this is a guy who could play up in your lineup a little bit, if need be. I thought he certainly didn't look out of place. But it really goes to show that if this Jets team, and this isn't, I think, news to anybody, particularly the Jets front office, but if the Jets, really want to, make a run or be considered as a contender in the Western Conference, they need another forward, more than they need somebody on the back end. If I had to choose, and we talked about that on this past Saturday show, you need that one other guy so that
you need to find your 2023 Paul Stastny, right?
Basically, if you're moving Cole Perfetti down in the lineup, Lowry and Perfetti, if that's going to be the line, and I don't expect that to be a line, very often going forward, they need somebody else there. And if that somebody else ends up being Blake Wheeler and somebody else comes in to step up and step into Blake Wheeler's position, so be it. That'll play itself out. But it's evident to me that you need one more top six, middle six forward, and then you maybe have something, because the fourth line guys it's clear who the fourth line guys are, and the guys who've been playing higher than that really shouldn't be, especially on a team that wants to consider themselves contenders.
Absolutely. And Dave, a guy that's been floated out there, it was being talked about a lot on social media today, Timo Meier.
Yeah.
Timo Meier would look great, and he's got the connection with Ehlers, right? Halifax Mooseheads and all that. But you're going to have to give up a lot to get Timo Meier, right? So that's something that is Chevy prepared to give up, a first round pick and possibly a high end prospect and possibly more, right? Like Timo Meier, you can't get Timo Meier for the same price that you got Paul Stastny back in 2018, because Timo Meier, first off, is younger than Paul Stastny was back then. And there's also, is he a rental? Is he a guy that
he's an RFA? So he's an RFA
right.
but the interesting part about Timo Meier, of course, is he's an RFA.
That's right. He's an RFA. He's not. I forgot that he's not a UFA.
But he's an RFA with a it's got that high. It's got that
10
high.
million,
what's that?
I think it's 10 million.
Yeah, it's that high, exactly. Yeah. It's that huge qualifying offer.
It's a few shekels.
Yeah, because of even though his salary cap hit is only $6 million, his actual salary this year is that at that 10 million mark, which means that you have to qualify him at that level next year if you want to hold on to his rights. And any team that wants to acquire him is obviously going to probably do that, but that means you're on the hook for paying him $10 million at least.
So again, we're not throwing out Timo Meier to say that the Jets are going to acquire him tomorrow.
No,
and they probably will just because I said that. But we're saying that because
it was talked about today a lot.
Exactly, and you're saying top 6 forward, Drew. Like he's not just a top 6 forward. He can play in your first line.
Sure.
Right. So Timo Meier is an excellent goal scorer. So I mean, right now, Dave, clearly, right now you've got Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, you've got Mark Scheifele, you've got Nick Ehlers playing at the highest level, right? Point of game players. Ehlers has been on an absolute tear since he came back from his injury. But right now you're struggling to get that cliche secondary offense, right? You're not getting a lot from the Saku Manalainens or the Axel Jonsson-Fjällbys or the Kevin Stenlunds. I really like Stenlund's game, by the way. Like if Stenlund remains on the Jets' 4th line, great. Yeah. Same thing with Jonsson-Fjällby, or if Carson Kuhlman's your 13th forward and you're kind of moving Gagne and Kuhlman and Manalainen in and out of that 4th line, that's fine. But right now, clearly, a guy like Morgan Barron, he can step up for sure on the 2nd line. But I think we'd all agree, right now at this stage of his career, he's better suited to be on that 3rd line with Adam Lowry and X.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's exactly where the Jets need to, focus their energies. And I'm sure that's where they're largely going to focus their energies, or that's where the front office is going to focus their energies while the Jets try and focus to get back into the win column. Next game Saturday against the Ottawa Senators, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, for the next few games before they finally head home, Dave. But that's just where, that's where the Jets are at right now, is trying to get back on the positive side of the ledger, while at the same time trying to figure out at some point how to augment the roster as you get closer and closer to the trade deadline. But while we're at it, why don't we get into the actual game itself and the details of the goals? The Betway game recap is brought to you by Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront, with a large selection of betting options and sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. We talked about the first period, by and large, a good period for the Winnipeg Jets, and an entertaining period from the hockey fans' perspective. Even if you didn't have a rooting interest in tonight's game, that was certainly an entertaining first period. But blink, and the Jets are trailing 1-0 in the second period. 8 seconds in, Austin Matthews, the 23rd of the season. We know Austin Matthews isn't fully healthy. He's, been playing through an injury all season long for the Leafs. Still a dynamite hockey player, as we all know. Matthews, his 23rd assist to Michael Bunting and Morgan Riley. Mark Scheifele is not going to like the video on this one, but because Austin Matthews just walks around him. Beautiful goal. But to me, I also don't really love Neil Pionk's read on this one. Stepping up on Bunting in that situation, I just think it leaves the Jets in a bit of a vulnerable position, because I just don't see that as the time where you need to sort of step up in the neutral zone on Bunting. And ultimately, after Matthews' move on Scheifele, it ends up in the back of the net, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not the way you'd want to start a period, especially given how you had ended the first, right? And we talked about it. The Jets and Leafs both had the same number of high danger chances, but the Jets had the momentum, and the PK was good. So you have a lot to feel good about yourself. And look, I mean, there was a lot. It's funny how before the game people were like, "Well, you hope." It's a shame the Jets only play the Leafs twice a year, and I'm thinking, oh my God, thank God they only play the Leafs twice a year. I couldn't handle having to listen to this nonsense more than twice a season. And I mean, Rick Bonus's media availability had 17 questions today. That's like an end of season scrum, not a pregame media availability. But regardless, I think it's just an unfortunate situation for a Jets team that, you know, they were wanting to bounce back from that game in Montreal. And we've talked about it. It's not as if this has been it's funny, right? It's funny how the world is ending. They've lost 2 in a row, but prior to that, they'd won 8 of 9, right? You know, in first place in the Western Conference ahead of Dallas. Everybody is like, you know, like planning the parade. And now suddenly, you know, have 2 losses and suddenly it's trade the team, get rid of everybody. This guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. Yeah. I mean, you look at that goal and you definitely don't like to see Mark Scheifele get, I mean, Austin Matthews isn't exactly a slouch, you know, so when Austin Matthews makes that move, you know, 55, you'd like to see him take the body, not try and stick check him. And because Austin Matthews is slippery and he was able to get around Mark Scheifele, and he's a guy who's thought of as someone who can score 60 goals for a reason, right? So, I mean, with Austin Matthews, he gets that kind of time and space, and it's in the back of the net, 8 seconds in, and you're a little bit unsettled because you've gone from having an exceptional first period in Toronto, the crowd's into it because, as we heard in the anthem, there's a lot of Jets fans in the building, but suddenly now they're kind of muted, and the Leafs fans are amped up.
Yeah, and you know, Drew mentioned, you know, he doesn't like the Pionk. I agree with you. I mean, he put himself out of position, but really, you know, you have to isolate Scheifele here, right? Like they lose the faceoff, Scheifele loses the faceoff, Leafs get the possession, and it's a soft stick check.
Yeah,
and like, you know, anybody watching that, you know, Mark Scheifele doesn't have to talk to Adam Oates after the game, you know, for Adam Oates to tell him that wasn't a good stick check. Like, honestly. And I'm a fan of Scheifele. Scheifele's had a great season. I mean, but like these last couple games, it's kind of some of the bad habits have crept back into his game from last year, right? And I agree with what you said, Dave. Like Austin Matthews, you know, is, you know, arguably the best goal scorer, or at the very least top 3 goal scorer in the NHL right now. And, you know, he's made a lot of talented players look silly, and he did that to Scheifele. He made Scheifele look silly there. He made that look easy. And, you know, Drew was mentioning that, you know, the Matthews injury that he's been dealing with, he's still on pace for around 40 goals.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it's incredible that, you know, he's fighting through an injury. But his play definitely hasn't, like, he's obviously not going to get close to 60 goals this year. But, you know, he was making it look easy tonight. And, you know, as we talked about, the Leafs were pretty badly outplayed in the first period. So, I mean, that's just, you know, unacceptable, you know, defense, you know, off the opening faceoff.
Yeah, that's just exactly it. And it bites the Jets. And I mean, you know, you give an inch, they take a mile. That's what good teams do. And that's what the Toronto Maple Leafs did to start the second period. And then they capitalized further. 3:47 mark. So it takes another 3 minutes and 39 seconds for the Leafs to make it 2-0. Austin Matthews, his 24th of the season, assist to Michael Bunting and William Nylander. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is not going to like this one very much, nor will, of course, as you said, Mark Scheifele. Well, I guess it's the third goal that Mark Scheifele is not going to like. But Pierre-Luc Dubois is caught watching. He's puck watching, and Austin Matthews sort of just slips into soft ice behind them, gets the puck, and it's just a dangerous player in a dangerous spot, and he makes no mistake to make it 2-0, beating Connor Hellebuyck clean.
Yeah, and you know, unlike the last goal, the first Leafs goal, I mean, there's a lot of things going wrong here. Like Michael Bunting, you know, beats out Josh Morrissey there, so he makes a nice pass to Austin Matthews, but Matthews again, you know, he's untouched. He just comes up the middle of the ice, like he started the play, and he's untouched, goes up the middle. Pierre-Luc Dubois, that's his guy. I mean, he's a center. And he has to have Matthews there. And Dubois, I'm not sure, you know, if he fell asleep there or what happened. And I thought Dubois was, you know, similar to, you know, a lot of the players that we talked about, Ehlers, Connor, Perfetti. Like, you know, I thought Dubois was a force out there tonight. But I'm just not sure, like, you know, brain farts happen. But in that type of situation, when you're already down a goal, when you should probably be up a goal, you know, it's just kind of like, that's not acceptable. And, you know, it's just poor defensive coverage. And really, you know, Connor Hellebuyck is not to blame in the least on this goal. You have to be aware of who's on the ice, and especially when it's Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner. And those are the two guys. Like, it's funny, like when you're game planning against the Jets, I mean, you might as well just put Connor, Ehlers, Dubois, Morrissey, like put those guys, Scheifele, you know, just put these guys, you know, write them in caps lock. And for the Leafs, it's going to be Matthews and Marner and Tavares, Morgan Riley, William Nylander, right? So it's just really, to me, it's puzzling. These are preventable goals. Like these are goals where you look at them and you say, like, you made it easy for the Leafs here. Like you just made it easy. You didn't. This is not the type of defense. But like of all the, there's articles, across the league, across like in Canada and the U.S. about how Rick Bowness has got the Jets to buy into this defensive system. Well, that didn't look like players that have bought into a tight defensive system. Look, that was just putrid defending.
Well, it's interesting. I was rewatching the goal, on the replay through the NHL app, and you got to hear Gordon Miller and Mike Johnson's commentary on this one. And Mike Johnson says, "Look, Dubois is just." He says Dubois is gassed on the play. He's just completely out of breath, out of energy. Not that because he's out of shape or anything, just because he's at the end of a long shift. And that's, when you're tired, and that's, when Mike Johnson attributes the error to Dave is simply Dubois being out of gas on that play. And as a result, he sort of just, can't really move as well as he should be, whereas allowing Matthews to get into that soft ice. And I'm sure there's probably a strong element to that.
Excuse. It's
he's not
wrong.
But
he's not wrong. It wasn't the end of the shift, Drew. But like again, so if you're that tired, get off the ice.
Well, I'm saying, but he got caught on the ice, is what he's saying. Is what Mike Johnson's saying. And he wasn't excusing it; he was just explaining it. And I'm sure that's probably correct. But you have to find a way to still not let that happen. You have to dig deep. You have to get into your reserves to find a way to not let Austin Matthews. It's one thing if it's, no offense, Pierre Engvall, who's a good player, but it's one thing if
he was one of their best players tonight.
Yeah, no, I know. It's one thing if he gets loose in that slot and he can score, and he oftentimes will. But if Austin Matthews is in that position, I mean, he's going to score. More often than not, he's going to score. He's the preeminent goal scorer in the NHL, and the Jets gave him 2 opportunities, gift wrapped, and as a result, it was 2-0.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's also hurts the Jets that what had happened, like just under 3.5 minutes later, or just whatever it was. But it wasn't a significant amount of time after the first goal, and so that's the backbreaking nature of it. Because it's one thing to give up a goal 8 seconds into a period, but you can overcome that. And you can, rebound a little bit and kind of dig within. But the second period was almost all Leafs, right? And so they had control of it. And it was weird because it was a complete flip of that script that we'd seen in that first period. And you're wondering, where did the Jets go? It's not like the Jets have had tough travel. You were in Montreal 2 days ago. You're in Toronto. You skated in Toronto in Etobicoke. It's not like it was far. And so then the reality is, and you haven't had a lot of practice.
It should be a Etobicoke, by the way. It shouldn't be the K shouldn't be silent as far as I'm concerned.
Did I say it's silent? I thought I said it's
no, I know. I'm just saying it's a Etobicoke, right? Like a silent K.
I went with the Etobicoke.
Isn't it a Etobicoke?
I think it's Etobicoke. If I had to pronounce it, I would say Etobicoke.
Isn't the K silent?
Yeah,
you and your fancy Ontario. Sorry, you guys are fancy Ontarioites. I don't.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that unless it's Lake of the Woods, and I've been a big advocate of
absolutely not, Dave. I'm ride or die Manitoba till I die.
I've been a big advocate of Manitoba absorbing rat portage for many, many years. So we'll see if we can eventually get Northwestern Ontario. But regardless of what it's called, the reality is the Jets haven't had a tough schedule. So, look, they had a great first period. You wanted to see them replicate it. And this is a team that, again, first place. And I agree. Look, I'm not kind of going over the Jets, saying the Jets want 8 of 9. I'm not suggesting the Jets are happy with those 8 of 9. Rick Bowness, I mean, it's funny how when we come on the show and we say we're being pragmatic and we're saying, well, the Jets won, but they didn't win beautifully. And people are like, well, they won. And now we're seeing it. And then people are like, well, they weren't great. We're like, well, yeah, we know. We said that on all the shows. The only show we never shit on the Jets really was Pittsburgh, because the Jets played an exemplary game against the Penguins and deserved that win and were fantastic. But in a lot of the other instances, they weren't fantastic, and those games weren't Picasso's. And so we spoke about the things they did right and the things they did wrong.
I think they were actually a Matisse.
Spency is deciding that it's going to be a Toba Pepsi instead. Which is pretty
funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Spency always brings the humor. Yeah. One more thing on that goal. Yeah. Didn't really particularly you mentioned Mike Johnson saying Pierre-Luc Dubois at the end of the shift. Well, then, and what explains like Ville Heinola kind of in no man's land there, right? Like he initially tries to stop Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting's the one that passes the puck to Matthews, and then Morrissey has Bunting, and then Heinola is just, he puts his stick down and goes to intercept a pass, right? Like he's not taking a player. So again, like, I like Ville Heinola. I think he's got a bright future in the NHL, but you don't like, Ville Heinola there. Like, he's not covering anybody. It's just like, again, to me, like, both of these goals are preventable, and the Jets just weren't sharp enough defensively on these two goals.
Yeah, they absolutely were not sharp enough, and then they were really not sharp enough on the goal that made it 3-0. This comes shorthanded, just when you think the Jets maybe are going to get an opportunity.
Dan Robertson's fault. He said Mitch Marner. He actually said Mitch Marner
he did.
has one shorthanded goal.
He did say that. Yeah, he absolutely said that.
Blame Dan Robertson.
And then he got a second one with Rasmus Sandin in the penalty box for tripping, which really was a bad call by the officials.
Because Wheeler tripped him.
Yeah, Wheeler tripped him, and then he tripped Dubois.
Like, and you saw Sheldon Keefe like literally pointing to the video screen, saying like, "Look, like Sandin tripped Wheeler right before he tripped Dubois or whoever it was."
Yeah.
So it's like. It's been a rough week for the officials.
It's been a rough year for the officials, as Paul Maurice is a little bit lighter in the wallet book or in the pocketbook as a result of his rant against the officiating a couple nights ago, where he was not wrong for the record. But the NHL, as our buddy Mike McIntyre said, the NHL is too thin-skinned and everything else to actually acknowledge they have an issue with their officiating. But that's a sidebar for another day and time. With Rasmus Sandin in the penalty box, the Jets get a power play. Maybe they can get a power play goal when they don't necessarily deserve to cut it into a 2-1 lead. Instead, disaster strikes, and it's just a brutal turnover by Mark Scheifele, just trying to do too much and leaving, putting himself into a vulnerable position against a dynamite hockey player, trying to do too much when simple is better. In this case, simple is usually better on your power play. In this one, comes back up the ice. Mitch Marner unassisted, his 17th of the year, and it's 3-0 late in the third period, and it's just an absolute disaster of a middle frame for the Winnipeg Jets, Ezzy.
Yeah, and can we also just talk about how kind of absurd it is that Marner has a point in 20 straight home games? Like, that is just incredible. So good on him. He's continuing his fantastic season. But yeah, I mean, this is just, like Mark Scheifele toe dragging, at the Toronto blue line, right? Like, that's the kind of situation where I think it was Dubois, if I'm not mistaken, that was on the right. Like, you either make a short little pass to Dubois, or you cliche, get pucks deep or get the puck in. Like, it's just, you can't make that type of move. Mitch Marner is an underrated defensive forward. Everybody knows him for his offensive forward, but he's kind of similar to Kyle Connor in that, he can create turnovers, right? So just a really egregious turnover by Scheifele, and, Marner puts it top corner glove side, right? So, that was really kind of, to me, the beginning of the end, even though the Jets, made it interesting and made it a 2-goal game. As Dave mentioned, you score 2 goals, within 3 minutes of each other. And then this one kind of later in the second period. But, that's a shorthanded goal of that nature is so deflating.
Very much so. It's exactly what it was. That's the exact right word. The Jets had an opportunity served up to them on a platter. Instead, it ends up being a goal for the Leafs to make it 3-0 at the end of 40 minutes. And the uphill climb is even more steep than it was when it was a 2-0 game, as the Jets are going to try and scratch and claw their way back into this contest. We say good evening to everyone just joining us. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. I've been remiss in not smiling and waving, so I'm going to smile and wave for all the good people in the chat who have been asking for me to do so. I just did it. I've smiled. I've waved. I'm happy to see all my friends that are joining us on this Thursday edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. And no, I do not actually put butter on my head. My shiny head is because of a lack of hair. I don't need to augment it with any other shiny substances. So yes, I just add, my flaws are my flaws.
Drew did have butter on his potatoes for dinner, though.
We did have potatoes. My wife made they were really good. I don't think there was any butter on them. Some olive oil, there was some onion. Laura treats me well when it comes. You have no idea how good you have it, Drew, because you know what I had for dinner? I just got bread, like with nothing on it. Just two pieces of bread. Yeah. And water. That was my dinner. Naomi's like, this is all you're getting tonight. Well,
I had like a handful of Smarties and a Pepsi Max.
Well, Dave, you're a teenager.
And I was going to say, Dave, 12.
I was going to say, and Ezzy, you apparently are living in a prison. I'm not sure exactly, like, and not a good prison, like, a bad prison, like,
Oh,
the
no.
prison from Midnight Express is where I think you
Yeah.
are apparently living.
Yeah.
Some sort of like 1960s style Turkish prison.
I know. I was going to say I didn't want to go to Turkey after that. After that, I saw that movie.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. Apparently, Ezzy's living it, Dave. So,
you know what movie really freaked me out about going traveling back in the day when it came out was Hostel. I don't ever want to see that movie again because that was so creepy. I don't know if anybody out there saw the movie Hostel. Not that I was planning on, staying in hostels, but I definitely won't be after seeing that movie.
You're 41 years old. I think your days of staying in a
hostel. No, Drew, 40. Come on, don't.
40
hey, Drew, you're in 1981. I'm a young 40. Okay?
You're turning 41 this year. How about that? I think your days of staying in a hostel are finished with in any event. So it's 3-0 for the Maple Leafs after 40 minutes. But then the Jets get on the board. It's Kyle Connor on the 5-on-3 man advantages at the 4-minute mark of the third period. It's Kyle Connor, his 23rd assist to Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele on this one. This one is also our Seagram's shot of the game. Fireball, tastes like heaven, burns like hell.
It's a big shot.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for providing us with some drinks to get through these post-game shows. As
Drew's hair's growing back.
Yes, the Seagram's shot of the game are going to be a new feature here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. So really, we encourage everybody to get their own shot out and take it with us during the Seagram's shot of the game.
Dave, alcohol consumption through the last
Dave,
couple
I was
going
to say, I don't remember getting any Fireball. I would have done a shot there.
Well, I mean, Ezzy, I just assumed you always had some in your back pocket based on previous conversations, to be perfectly honest. But, in any event, you can look forward to the next game. Get your stuff ready for the Saturday game against Ottawa, because I'm sure there will be another Seagram shot of the game there during the Betway game recap.
Spencer likes that.
What'd you say? Yeah,
Spencer likes that.
Spencer likes that. No doubt about that. It's the Jets needed this 5-on-3. Yeah. The Leafs take a too many men penalty. Mark Giordano then takes a tripping penalty, and the Jets do what you have to do in this opportunity. They capitalize to make it 3-1, and you wonder, do they have it in them to crawl back into this game? Do they have it in them to make it more closer than the 2-goal lead that the Leafs had after this goal, Ezzy?
Yeah, and it was kind of ridiculous, like how many saves Samsonov was making leading up to that, right? Like It was a pretty long 5-on-3, right? And when you consider all the firepower out there and all the quality chances they were having, like Ehlers had a really good scoring chance. Connor had a really good point blank scoring chance right before that. They were getting the shots through and getting deflected, but just going wide. But Samsonov, he was just incredible. So you got the feeling that it was coming. Like it just was, you can't stop everything, even if you're playing, at that otherworldly level. Right. So yeah, just, Jets were moving the puck really well. And how many times we just saw it a couple nights ago, Connor scoring on the power play. Right. So unfortunately, the Jets were only able to get the one goal, but the first period power play, what did they have? 5 shots on goal, Dave, I believe.
Yeah.
So like the Jets power play, look at most areas of the game were controlled by the Jets or won by the Jets, right? 5-on-5, Jets. Special teams, penalty kill and power play, Jets were better than the Leafs.
Yeah.
It was just like we talked about, some brain farts, turnovers, not covering guys. It was 8 or 9 bad minutes of hockey, and you have yourself a loss here. But certainly, the Jets took advantage of the 5-on-3, nice goal by Connor, and they probably should have or could have had another goal, but it was too little, too late at that point.
I have to ask, because Kenny's water bottle says Drew needs a makeup artist to blot out the shine of my forehead. Is my forehead any shinier tonight than it is on any other
Kenny's water bottle is joking here. No,
your color. No, I don't know. I think your color is a bit unusual.
My color is a bit. It's weird.
I mean, Drew, I can see my reflection in your forehead, but like I don't. I
it
think
could be, Drew.
normal,
it's entirely possible. Maybe that you've got a fancy new computer, and because of that,
But I'd have
coming
to
in
fancy
clear.
But you know, it's weird. When I was picking up my kids from school today, when Zach, a friend of ours, does the great Bomber post game show with our buddy Darren Bombing, was coming out of the school, so we were chatting. He said, "Oh, you look tanned. You must have just come away, been home from somewhere." And that's like,
Well,
I
you were
haven't
in
been
Kentucky.
anywhere.
You were getting a little sun in Kentucky.
Ezzy, I wasn't sunbathing. Let me tell you, I got off the plane in Kentucky. It was the same temperature that it was in Winnipeg. There wasn't a lot of. I wasn't sitting in the backyard sunning myself like the broadcasts that we did in the summer from Kentucky when I was melting on air. So I mean, I don't know about my head. It seems a little bit. Maybe for some reason, it must be shinier than normal.
I think you're good. I think it's a combination of the light and maybe the fireball. Maybe the fireball had some influence.
I actually bathed in Fireball before the show started, so maybe that has something to do with it. The cinnamon is mixing in with my melatonin, and as a result, it's causing things to be a little shinier than before. 3-1 for the Winnipeg Jets at this point in time. And they push and they push and they push. And then there's a great save again by Samsonov a couple minutes after the penalties had expired. A point blank chance. I think it was for Kyle Connor again. He had a point blank chance right from the slot. And it's the chance that the Leafs capitalized on tonight's game and that the Jets couldn't / Samsonov made the saves on. And ultimately, Dave, it ends 4-1. Mark Giordano just after the Jets pull the goalie. They have good pressure in the Leaf zone, and this is just sort of a tale of the tape. Giordano from right in front of Ilya Samsonov nails it almost the 200 feet right into the heart of the Jets net. Sort of a blind turnaround, get the puck out. You're okay if it's icing kind of play, and it goes right into the net to make it 4-1.
Well, I hope you're not asking me to analyze an empty netter, but
I'm not.
I think it was the icing on the cake for the Jets, and I think one of the things we've talked about, and I'm not looking at the Pittsburgh game and saying it's kind of like when the Jets had that game against St. Louis, and we said, well, if the Jets can replicate that, and then they went out and had a bunch of stinkers. So it's not a function of that, but it just goes to show you that when you play a full 60, as cliche as as you would say that is. It goes to show you what your hockey team can do. And guys, let's be realistic. It wasn't like they were going up against a Leafs team that wasn't a good hockey team. Right? Mm-hmm. They had 61 points coming into today's game. The Jets had 59. So the Leafs are ahead of the Jets, and the Leafs, again, like I said, the Jets
and
were
also
good.
Right, Minnesota. I don't know if that game's over, but they were losing.
Well, they're getting pumped. Yeah.
Right. So the good news is
5-2 final.
Right. So it's a final now. So the Wild don't gain any ground.
Right.
So you're okay there. And Dave, you're not suggesting, that the Jets are going to, fall out of a top 2 spot in the Central. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying right now they're not playing well. And, the Leafs are a good team. They lost to a good team tonight. A couple nights ago, they lost to not a very good team, but they lost to a team, that came to, they showed up, right? Like they played very well. We were talking about it on the post-game show. Like we were giving the Habs a lot of credit. They played better than the Jets. They deserve to win the game, right? But, you've got a back-to-back coming up, 3 games left on this road trip. And, you got to turn this around, not just because you want to remain in a top 2 spot in the Central, Dave, but you want to get your game back to, where it should be. And this is 3 or 4 games in a row now that are not very good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the Jets are going to have to figure a way to quickly right the ship as they head to Ottawa on Saturday. That post-game show will be at 8:45 p.m. But, of course, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show will start your Saturday game day off, 9 o'clock back here on our YouTube channel. And then after Saturday, they go quickly to Philadelphia on Sunday to face the Flyers. So no rest for the wicked for the Winnipeg Jets as they look to get back on the positive side of the ledger. They lose tonight 4-1 in Toronto. This has been the Betway game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. When we come back, contest, giveaways, comments from the dressing room, and whatever other shenanigans that my bald-headed brain thinks up. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on a Thursday night. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on YouTube and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouthguard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time. Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com. For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Bottom of the hour is come and gone. We're back with the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on our YouTube channel. We're live on all of our social media platforms. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg. A hearty congratulations goes out to Connor Hellebuck. He has been voted in by the fans.
Awesome.
Whatever that nonsense was.
He deserves it.
He does deserve it. He's going to the All-Star game in Florida alongside Josh Morrissey. So also representing the Central Division, or additionally being added to the Central Division team, are Mikko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. Leon Draisaitl, Stuart Skinner, and Bo Horvat are going out of the Pacific Division.
Stuart Skinner.
Yeah. He's been good for the Oilers, but
yeah, he's been. How many games has Stuart Skinner played? 20?
It's a fan vote. This is what happens when you leave it up to the fans, I guess.
And by the way, I like Stuart Skinner. I'm not taking anything away from him. That was a little bit shocking. Like when you're talking about Hellebuck, Rantanen, Nathan
McKinnon.
McKinnon. Okay, but then Stuart Skinner, Draisaitl. But
Yeah.
then you threw in Stuart Skinner, and I was just like, okay.
Skinner.
Yeah, exactly. Austin Matthews, David Pasternak, and Andrei Vasilevsky out of the Atlantic Division, and 2 Rangers and an Islander out of the Metropolitan. Artemi Panarin, Adam Fox, and Ilya Sorokin. So for those of you who plan to tune into the NHL All-Star Game, and all the power to you for doing so, those are some of the additional players you're going to see at that exhibition contest.
Speaking of contests,
Skinner's played, sorry, just wanted to say Skinner, I just hockey DB'd it here, Drew. Skinner's played 26 games.
Yeah.
So it's just over half of the Oilers games. He's got a .914 save percentage. I don't know what his goal saved above expected is. His goals against is 2.96. That's not terrific. That's a team stat, as we know. But I'm just saying, a little bit surprised, but good for him.
You're using logic, whereas fans are voting based on emotion there. So that's
right.
the difference. That's where your problems are arising.
Stuart Skinner is this year's John Scott.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's quite that bad, but yes.
It's not.
Speaking of contests, Dave M, we do have some contests here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Let's start with the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Mr. Ginsburg, who have you chosen as a comment that has jumped out to your eye as being worthy of a toque, courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck?
Lots of good comments, and I have to say before we announce the winner, we're not going to give it to Harvey Minuk, because last year when the Jets were in Toronto, Harvey Minuk, a relative of Dave's, won it. So unfortunately, Harvey, we appreciate you watching. Not sure if he's still watching, but we're a lot of good comments. So as always, we appreciate all the good participation in the chat there. We're going to give it to Andrew Haleko. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It was from not too long ago, about 10 minutes ago. Games like tonight, pardon me. Yep, we got it. Games like tonight highlight need to upgrade a forward and D. Sorry, but it will be a couple of years before we can expect 91 and 14. Obviously, he's talking about Perfetti, Heinola, even 54, Sandberg, to stand up to playoff intensity, right? So look we're about 5 weeks away from the trade deadline, guys. And I think what we've seen, we've talked about it. The Jets, not only do they need probably, another veteran defenseman, they definitely need some help, in their top 6/top 9. We mentioned, a guy like Timo Meier, right? We're not sure if, he's on Chevy's radar, but like the comment from Andrew, send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, or you can send me a DM on Twitter @ICSEG, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations to Andrew, the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. We have the Illegal Curve merchandise contest as well, as everybody who's watching this program knows all about. If you don't know how to enter, you go to the show description here on YouTube, or you go to our website, illegalcurve.com. You'll click on any article there. You'll click on the link. It says contest, basically. Click that link. You'll see a whole list of things you can do to earn entries and get more entries and more entries and more entries into the Illegal Curve merchandise contest, and we draw for that after each and every Jets game. And again, coming up at the end of the month, we're going to draw 2 tickets. You can, if you get your name drawn, 2 tickets to an NHL game of your choosing. So be sure to stay tuned for that. The more entries you get, more things you do to earn entries, the more chances you have to win. Dave, the unique code word for tonight is what?
I can tell you, nobody guessed it. 204 versus 416.
Nice.
I went area codes on that one.
You also could have gone 431 versus 4.
I could have, but I mean, 204.
And then the 905 people.
No. But 416 is, I think of Toronto, and 204, you think of Winnipeg. So that's the way I went for this one, or Ontario, Manitoba, whatever you want to call it. But that's where I went. So 204 versus 416. Nobody guessed it.
And Dave's not 204 spelled out, but 204 with the numbers 204 VS 416. So all 3 numbers, 2 letters, 3 numbers. That's the unique code word for tonight's Illegal Curve contest. Enter that. You get extra entries to potentially get your name drawn as a winner of merchandise, courtesy of us here at Illegal Curve. Today's merchandise contest winner, Dave M. Do the man the honors.
Jeffrey Klein. Well done. Jeffrey Klein, I believe, of Winnipeg. So, Jeffrey, you are the winner.
Is it Jeffrey or Jeffery?
It might be spelled wrong.
Well, I think I just copy and pasted it. So if it's spelled wrong, it would be Jeffrey's responsibility, or Jeffery, or whatever it is. But regardless of the pronunciation and the spelling, you are the winner. So congratulations. I will be in contact with you. few more winners got their jerseys. I saw in the chat, so that's good. Wear them well, including Kenny's water bottle. So folks are wearing. We got some tweets at us from folks wearing their new authentic Jets merch. We know our friend Glenn in Toronto got his. So folks are far and wide are wearing authentic Jets merch courtesy of this contest. So continue to participate, and you too can be a winner.
There you go. Congratulations to all the winners here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Some comments courtesy of the Winnipeg Jets dressing room, courtesy of our good friend Murad Atesh. Pierre-Luc Dubois on the story of a team who played better tonight but still made crucial mistakes. Quote, couldn't be much worse than Tuesday. We played some good minutes, but against these good teams, you give them a little bit and they take a lot. That's what happened tonight. As we said, you give an inch, they take a mile. More from Pierre-Luc Dubois, who says he wants the Jets to avoid what he called a slippery slope. Quote, you start losing games and nobody feels bad for you in this league. Start losing games and teams see that as an advantage for themselves. Losing is not fun. We say that good teams don't lose 2 in a row, and that's 2 in a row. Furthermore, we've looked at our past couple of 7 or 8 games here, and it's not the hockey that we've played all year that's made us successful. So Pierre-Luc Dubois speaking some truth, speaking some honest words post-game tonight. The Jets defeat 4-1 at the hands of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's a comment from Rick Bowness. Quote, listen, we made a huge mistake right off the bat in the second period. That first goal, everyone's ready to go. That's just a terrible play. Then we had some looks. We just didn't score that goal to get going. So that's from the Winnipeg Jets head coach.
And Drew, let's not forget, not everybody noticed this. I'm not even sure if we brought this up. Scheifele was demoted in that Montreal game. Sure. I forget exactly at what point in the game it was.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will back me up here, but he was demoted. He moved down to the 4th line. So, I mean, Rick Bowness, I mean, he's not afraid to call, say when it's a bad play. And that was a bad stick check by Scheifele that led to Austin Matthews' goal. And you got to give Matthews credit for, his nifty stick handling. But, I mean, Scheifele's got to be harder on the puck there. Mm-hmm. And, so right now, I mean, look, I don't think any of us would be shocked if Scheifele has a tremendous game and scores a hat trick against the Ottawa Senators. Like, he knows he hasn't been very good, these last 2 or 3 games, but again, you don't get moral victories here. So, the Jets got to get this back on the right track. And I think they will, by the way. I do think, they'll be victorious against Ottawa. But again, you've got the second half of a back-to-back against the Philadelphia team that's been playing better as of late, especially now that the iPads are off the bench. And then you've got Nashville, who knows that, if they don't start, putting together a long winning streak, Dave, they're done. So, you got to get it back going in the right direction. And again, I do have look at through 45, 46 games. I mean, we know what the Jets are at this point. And I do think, that they're going to turn this around. I don't think, they're going to go 0 for 5 on this road trip or anything like that. But there's no doubt that, the costly turnovers was really the story of this game.
Yeah, I would agree exactly with that. The Jets need to be a little bit more focused, a little sharper, especially against those upper echelon teams. They get a chance for redemption on Saturday evening in our nation's capital, or I guess a little bit west of our nation's capital in Canada, Ontario, against the Senators of Ottawa. 9 a.m. Saturday, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show back here on our YouTube channel. Set a reminder to join us. We'll have 2 hours of Jets talk and hockey talk coming your way. And then, of course, Saturday night, a doubleheader day, 2 on Saturday, 1 again on Sunday. So a busy weekend of Illegal Curve broadcast coming your way here.
Don't forget, Dave's got, I can see that, Dave was waiting for something. You got Moose, You got Moose in Texas, and it's minor hockey weekend as well.
There you go. So there's some good stuff going on with regard to the Manitoba Moose on this weekend as well that Dave M will have covered in its entirety. Yes. Oh, good. Did you get us hats?
No, I did not.
I like that hat, Dave. Let's see that again. Yeah, put that hat
not
on.
Bad.
They're handing those out.
2000s. First 3,000 fans. I know there's already 5,000 for every game they've got apparently. So first 3,000 fans will get one of these 80s style or 2000 style hats from the Moose.
Aren't those
on
called
Saturday.
Trucker hats?
Yeah, trucker hat.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. And then
Dave's a part-time trucker, Drew. That's why they gave him one.
The first 3,000 fans on Sunday will get a Jimmy Olney. Although as I told Jimmy in the elevator last night, I said, you're continuing a long history of players not actually playing in their bobblehead game, which I'm pretty sure, I think the only guy who has is Mikael Burden. He might've been burned for like 4 goals that game. So a lot of guys don't play in their bobblehead games, but regardless, that'll be the Jimmy Olney bobblehead. So you can have one for the captain. And I guess the next one is in February after that. So we'll find out who that is.
When is the Dave Minuk bobblehead coming out? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Good question.
I think discussions are happening at high levels about that. As if
something's happening.
Yeah, when that happens, that's the sign that you just shut down the whole franchise and you end this Ponzi scheme right there.
It's just gonna be a picture of like me and like Austin Siragusa sitting talking to whichever coach is coaching the whether it's Mark Morrison, Pascal Vincent, or any of the assistant coaches. Now that we talk to them, right. That would be my bobblehead.
Bomber.
Sitting there somewhat bemused.
Eric D.
Yes, somewhat bemused indeed. That does it for us here on the Illegal Curve post game for this Thursday night. A big thank you, Frosty Winnipeg. I hope you're ready. A big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club to see Mike Cronin this weekend. 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. Tickets available, rumorscomedyclub.com. Linden Market Dental Center. That's our good buddy, Dr. Les Rikus. Zappia Group Realty. Frank and Morrow Zappia are your realtors.
Don't forget about Don Zappia.
Well, he's not a realtor. Frank and Morrow is a
part
realtor.
of the Zappia Group, though.
He's got the same last name. Yes,
he's part of the Zappia family. That's what I'm saying.
That's okay. That's different. That's different. Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's. Everyone bring your drinks to the post-game show on Saturday for the Seagram's shot of the game. Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park, and The Keg support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve hockey. Jets lose 4-1 in Toronto. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us some feedback, and tell your friends, tell your family. The best place to be after every Winnipeg Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings, is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.